So we're going to finish up by solving equations now that have more than one step. Specifically, we're going to look at problems that have 2 steps. So you might have to like subtract first and then divide. Or maybe you have to add and then multiply. Since there's more than one step now in each problem, that means there is a certain step you have to do first, and then another step you have to do second. So we're going to make sure we understand the order that we have to go in to do it. All right. So again, we're going to solve problems. You don't have to write this part down. You can just look at that. We're going to solve problems just like we did on Wednesday and Monday. Remember, Tuesday we had the assembly. So we're going to kind of combine Monday and Wednesday together. So can somebody name one of the properties that we used? And again, I just want to list them. You guys don't have to write this down. But what's one operation that we used to solve equations? One thing we could do on both sides is what? Yep, Abby? We could subtract. Yep, that's one thing we can do on both sides. What's another operation we can do on both sides? Dorian?
Division.
Division. Subtraction, division. What else? Yeah. We can multiply on both sides. And the last one? Addition. So those are the 4 things that we are allowed to do on both sides. And remember, each one cancels out its opposite. So you do addition when you have to cancel subtraction. You do subtraction when you have to cancel addition. When do you do multiplication? When you want to get rid of division. And if you want to get rid of division, you use multiplication. So each operation cancels out its opposite. So all of the problems we do today are going to have 2 steps. Okay, so I'm just letting you know right away. I'm pretty sure all of them are going to have 2 steps. So let's take a look at the guided notes and go through the order that we solve things in. So when we do arithmetic, a lot of times people remember the order by PEMDAS. Okay? Just to make sure we understand. This is an arithmetic problem. Something like this, you use PEMDAS. This is an algebra problem. You do not use PEMDAS. Okay? When you're simplifying an equation, there's a certain order you follow, but it is not the same order as PEMDAS. Okay? Because if you did PEMDAS, you might think, oh, I see multiplication right here. Right? I'm always supposed to do multiplication before addition. You are when you're doing arithmetic, but this isn't arithmetic. So I'll show you the order you need to follow. All right, so the first step where it says S stands for simplify. Not every problem is going to have simplify in it. The way you know that it has simplify is if you have to do one of 2 things. If you see a distributive property, that is something you would do under simplify. It's the first thing you would do. How do you generally know if a problem has distributive property? What symbols are you going to look for in the problem? Yeah? The parentheses. So if you see a problem with parentheses, then we know it's distributive. And we do that first. The next thing we do under simplify is CLT, combine like terms. Not every problem will have like terms. But if you have like terms on the same side, okay, actually like example 1. You don't have to write example 1 yet. We're going to do it in a little bit. If you look at example 1, it has some simplifying that needs to be done. I see a term with a y, and I see another term with a y. The 3y and the negative 5y need to be combined together under the simplify step. When I look at number 1, I don't see parentheses. So that means there's no distributive property. Okay, so I don't have to worry about that this time. When you do the simplify step, that step is just taking care of stuff on one side. The next 2 steps start moving things from one side to the other. That's what we practiced on Monday and Wednesday. Okay, moving something from the left to the right, or right to the left. So the next thing that you handle when you're solving an equation is any addition or subtraction that needs to be done. This is different than PEMDAS, where addition and subtraction always comes at the end. Okay? This isn't arithmetic. This is solving an equation. So we always do addition or subtraction after the simplify step. So what that usually means is you're going to have a number. Let me give you an example. 2x minus 8 equals 12. You look for the number, not the one with the letter, just the number. In this case, it's a minus 8. And you want to move that minus 8 to the other side. And the way you move it is you have to think about the opposite operation. If you see a minus, you're going to do a plus. If you see a plus, you're going to do a minus. So you identify the number that's on the same side of the equal sign with the variable, and that number goes to the other side. So in that case, how would I move minus 8 to the right-hand side? If I was going to do it. How do we move minus 8? Yeah, Maya?
Would it be plus 8 on the other side?
Yep, we're going to do plus 8 on both sides. Okay, we would do a plus 8 on both sides. Again, I'm not going to solve that one, but that's what you would do at this step. And the last thing you do, bless you, is any multiplication or division. Okay, you handle all your multiplication or your division. Now, a couple things I want to remind you about with multiplication and division. So when you have multiplication or division, what you're doing now is identifying the number that is with the variable. Here's an example. 3x equals 18. If I got to a problem and I had something like that, I would identify the number with the variable and say, okay, the number is 3. Depending on the type of number, it's going to control whether you multiply or divide. If we have a whole number attached to the variable, you wrote this yesterday, but if you have a whole number attached to the variable, or a decimal, we're going to divide. In this case, you could probably do divide by 3 on each side without a calculator. But if it's a decimal, and there will be some decimals on the test, you can just use the calculator. What about if you had a fraction next to the variable? That's another case. Anyone remember what we do there? We have a fraction next to the variable. Abby? by the what? Something about the fraction. Yep.
Multiply by the reciprocal.
Right, multiply by the reciprocal. So if you have a fraction next to the variable, you multiply both sides by the reciprocal. Both sides of the equal sign, both sides of the equation. Yes? Yeah, just sign off. And the third case that we could have is when you have a variable divided by a number equals a number. Okay, something like that. And again, you guys wrote these three things down yesterday. We called them case 1, case 2, and case 3 in your notes. So I'm just reminding you again what they are. But you already did all this yesterday. So if you have a variable over a number, you're going to multiply both sides by the number. And these steps pretty much summarize solving equations in general. Not just the equations we're going to do today, but the equations that we're going to do whenever we solve an equation, no matter how complicated they get. Follow those three steps. And the way you can remember it, SAM. S-A-M. Simplify, add and subtract, multiply or divide. SAM. S-A-M. So think of SAM as like PEMDAS. It's the order of operations you follow when you're solving an equation. All right, so that pretty much that summarizes the kind of like the notes and the steps. Now what we'll do is we'll just try to work through some different examples. We'll probably do one together to start, and then I'll give you guys one to try, and I'll walk around and try to help you out if you get stuck. Okay, does anybody need to copy anything else from that page? Alright, so the front is all the notes, and then the back, there's some boxes where you can do the examples. Okay, so let's solve this one, and they want us to check it. Okay. So it says 4y minus 2 equals 14. Even if we don't have this step in the problem, can someone remind me what's the first step when you're solving an equation? Always check for, yep. What did we call it? I gave you like a word to remember. Remember, what's that first step we always check for when we're solving an equation? And if you need to look back at your notes, you can take a look. We just wrote it down today. First thing we always do when you're solving an equation. Yep.
Simplify.
Simplify. Good. Simplify. There's two things you have to look for under simplify. Can someone remind me the first thing you look for? If we don't have it, we'll skip it. If we have it, then we'll do it. Yep.
Distributive property.
Distributive property. Is there a distributive property you need to do in this problem?
No.
Nope. So you can skip it. So there's nothing under distributive property. What's the other thing you look for under simplified? Yep. CLT, right? Combined like terms. Do we have like terms on the same side of the equal sign here? No. Like terms would look like this. You have two different terms that have the same variable that need to be combined into one. So in that case, there are like terms to combine. In this case, there are not. Okay? This one has a y and this one doesn't. So simplify is done. There was nothing to do in this problem under that statement. What's the next step after simplify? Yeah, go ahead. Add or subtract. So if we look at this problem, does anybody see any addition or subtraction that we need to do to start to get the y by itself? Sean? Okay, so do you see any addition or subtraction that would help move something to the other side? Yeah, the -2. If we do it, we have to pick whether it's addition or subtraction. But if we pick the right one, we can get this -2 on the other side. How would we move that -2 to the other side? Yep. Yep. You would add 2 on both sides. So the goal is to get the y by itself. The first thing we can do, using addition or subtraction, is add 2 on both sides. If I do that, Mia, what's -2 plus 2? 0. That's the whole reason why we did that. Because that's 0 and it's gone. So now, Micah, what's on the left side now? Just the 4y. Is the y by itself yet? No, but it's better because at least the -2 isn't there. Right. And now on the other side, we have 14 plus 2. Yeah, go ahead, Brady.
16.
16, good. Now, you've turned it in from a 2-step problem into a 1-step problem. This is the kind of problem you did in the homework last night. So, as far as addition and subtraction, we've done that step. So we did the simplify, we did the add and subtract. Now we're at the last step. What's the name of the last step? Remember? Yes.
Double check it.
So we do have to check it at the end, but we can't check it till we have an answer. We don't have an answer yet. Right now we have 4y equals 16. I want to have y equals. And then when I get that, I'll check it. Yeah? Yeah, we want to divide by 4. So the last step is multiplication and division. Right? I look at this problem and I say, all right, this is multiplication. So how am I going to get rid of multiplication? I'm going to do its opposite, which is divide. So we're going to divide by 4. Divide by 4. And Megan, what's 4 divided by 4?
0.
Careful. You're thinking of 4 minus 4. 1. So sometimes we cross something out because it turns into 0. Sometimes we cross something out because it turns into 1. When you divide two things that are the same, it's 1. So now, Abby, what's on the left-hand side?
16 divided by 4. Oh, wait, no.
Left
Wrong
side.
Y.
Y. So now, we've got the y by itself. And on the right, we have 16 divided by 4. And Emily, what's 16 divided by 4? 4. There you go. That's your answer. Now we'll do what Caleb said, which is to check it. So Caleb, can you remind us, how do we check it?
I don't remember.
All right, so does anyone remember how you check and see if your answer is right? Dorian?
Plug in 4 for y.
Plug in the 4 for y back in the original equation. Okay, so let's do that. So when we check it, we're going to have 4. Make sure you put in parentheses when you plug in, otherwise it's going to look like 44. We want it to look like 4 times 4. So 4 times 4 minus 2. And this is where I put a question mark because I don't know if this works yet. That's what we want to find out. And now, let's simplify the left-hand side. Now this is PEMDAS. That's just arithmetic. 4 times 4 minus 2. So that you use PEMDAS for. So we do multiplication first. 4 times 4 is going to give me, Sophie? 16. And then 16 minus 2. Yep. 14. Because the left-hand side came out the same as the right, we know that that answer is correct. Any question on that one? Okay, so y equals 4. That one, I don't know, did I miss example 1? Oh, example 1 is over there. Okay, we'll come back to example 1. Let's do that one together right now. So if you accidentally wrote that in the example 1 box, that's fine. Just use the next box that you didn't use. All right, so let's do this one, which I missed. Example 1. 3y plus 7 minus 5y equals negative 9. Natalie, what's the first thing I always check for when I'm solving an equation? What's my first step? Check what? Anyone remember what was the first thing we did on the last one? First thing we always check and see if we can do it. Maybe we can, maybe we can't. Liv? Simplify. What's the first thing we look for under simplify? Lexi? What is it? Oh, bathroom. Yes, go ahead and sign up. What's the first thing we look for under simplify? Oh, Joe?
Like terms?
That's the second thing we look for. But that is under simplify.
Parentheses.
Oh, you're okay. You can go ahead. Yeah. Parentheses, which would tell you would have to do what property? Distributive. Yeah, distributive. Do we have parentheses in this one? About, oh, you want to go ahead, Joe? Yeah.
No.
No. So we don't have to worry about distributive property. The next thing is combine like terms. Do we have like terms on the left-hand side of the equal sign? You think, mine?
Can you repeat the question?
Do we have like terms on the left-hand side?
Yes.
Yes. What are my two like terms?
3y and negative 5y.
3y and negative 5y. Those need to be combined before we can continue. So that's our next step. Caitlin, if I combine 3y and negative 5y, what do I get? Good, negative 2y. Negative 2y plus 7 equals negative 9. Okay, so we checked for distributive property. We combine like terms. We're done with simplify. Finnegan, what's the next thing after simplify?
Addition or subtraction.
Addition or subtraction. Good. How about Aiden? Is there any addition or subtraction that I could do here to help get that y by itself? Okay, what would it be? Addition or subtraction?
Subtraction.
I agree, it would be subtraction. And what would you subtract on each side?
7.
Perfect. 7 and 7. Because you subtracted the 7, that's gone. And Cadence, what do I have on the left-hand side? Negative 2y. We still haven't dealt with the negative 2 yet. We're going to do that in the next step. And Sean? Negative 9 minus 7.
Negative 16.
Yeah, good job. Some people get a little tripped up with that. Perfect. Negative 9 minus 7, that's a negative 16. Okay, so we did addition or subtraction. Micah, what's my last step?
Divide negative 2.
Yep, check if you have any multiplication or division to do, and this time we do. We have a negative 2 times y. To get rid of it, we're going to do division. And we're going to divide each side by negative 2. And negative 16 divided by negative 2. What's a negative divided by a negative? Yeah?
Positive.
Positive. And 16 divided by 2?
8.
8. Good job. So we get y equals 8. That one didn't specifically say to check it, so I'm not going to worry about checking that. Any question on example 1 or 2? Let's see. All right, so here's example 3. Oh, 3. Okay. So example 3 is x divided by 5 plus 9 equals 13. This is a little easier than the last one. It's going to have less steps. This is going to be similar to the first example we did together in terms of how many steps. All right. So Mia, what's the first thing when we're solving an equation? What's the name of the first step? Simplify. Do we have any simplify in this one? What do you think? No. There's no distributive property. And there's no combining of like terms. Okay, so we don't have simplify. So we're going to go right to the next step. Alex, what's the name of the next step after simplify?
Next step after simplify. Isn't it to do with 5?
What's the name of it?
Something to do with 5. Right?
It's not going to have to do with the 5. That's going to be our last step. Yep. Add or subtract. Okay, so the simplify, add or subtract. Remember SAM, S-A-M. Megan, any addition or subtraction that we need to do here? Okay, which one? Add or subtract? I agree. We have to subtract. And what are you going to subtract on both sides? The 9. Minus 9, minus 9. That's gone. Caleb, can you tell me what I would have left after I do that step?
You'd subtract 13 minus 9, and then you'd multiply by 5 since you're cancel out 5.
All right, so before I multiply by 5, I agree. That is what we're going to do. Can you tell me what I have at this step?
What do you mean by that?
So after I do the operation I've written on the board, what would I write down right here before I do my final step?
5 over 1 and x over 5.
So x over 5, yeah.
Yeah. And wait.
Don't worry about getting rid of the 5. I just want to do what I have written right here.
Okay, so that would equal 4.
4. Yep, that's all I wanted to do with that step. Just minus the 9 from both sides. Now we'll do what you just said. The last step is multiply or divide. And what did you say to multiply by?
5.
Yep. Times 5. Times 5. And Abby, can you tell me what happens on the left when I multiply by 5?
You get the F.
Yep, we get just the x. That's gone. And what about on the right?
You multiply 4 times 5.
Yep, and we get
20.
20. Again, just for the sake of time, I'm not going to solve. I'm not going to check that one. Okay, so we solved it. X equals 20. Any questions on that one? So 2 steps. No simplify in that one. Let's look at 4, and let me see what 5 is. So there's 4. That's actually very similar to example 1. And 5 is also very similar to example 1. All right, so let's just do one of those. They're pretty much the same. Let's just do 4. Okay, we'll skip 5. If we have time, we'll come back to it. But I just want to make sure we get to the word problem, which is the last one. Okay, so that says 9f plus 4 minus 7f equals 8. All right. Same question I keep asking. My hope is that when you get to the test, you hear my voice in your head asking you that same question, so it kind of leads you on the right steps if you forget. What's the first thing you always do when you solve? First name of the first step. Yeah. Simplify. What's the first thing you check for under simplify? Yeah.
Multiplication.
Can you be more specific? Because we have another step named multiplication.
The distributive property.
Right, we're specifically checking for, do we have the type of multiplication that's a distributive property? Do I have distributive property in this one? Brady?
No.
No distributive property. What's the next thing we check for? Yeah.
Like terms.
Like terms. See if you have 2 terms or more on the same side that you can put together. Natalie, do you see 2 terms that I can combine on the left-hand side? Okay, what are they?
9 and 7.
Yep, 9f and negative 7f. Emily, if you combine those together, what's 9f minus 7f? 2f. What about the plus 4? What happens to that? Yeah? Eventually, but what happens to it for now, just at this step, once I combine these 2? Yeah? Yeah, we just add it to the 2f. We just copy it down. Nothing happens to it in this step. All right, so we combine like terms. Next step. How about 80? You tell me my next step.
You subtract 4 from both sides.
Right, we're at the add and subtract part. We're going to minus 4 from both sides. And Liv, if I do that, what do I have on the left-hand side now? 2f. Remember, positive 4 minus 4 is gone. Equals. And Maya, what about on the right?
4.
4. Okay. So now we're down to an equation with 1 step left. Then again, what's my last step?
Division.
Division. I like that. And what would you divide both sides by?
2.
Perfect. Divide by 2. Divide by 2. And Sophie, could you tell me what f is going to come out to? What is it?
2.
2. 4 divided by 2 gives you 2. Very good. Any question on that one? All right. So the last one we're going to look at is a word problem. It has a table in it. Do you guys already have that table written down, printed out? Okay, so you already got the table. So it says use the table to find the we're solving for x, which is how many miles we're going to ride on Friday. It says solve so that the mean number of miles biked is 5. What does that mean when they say mean? Yeah?
Isn't it kind of like the middle number almost? Like the middle of any number in like a specific group of numbers kind of?
So the exact middle number in a group of numbers is called the median. Like if you had the numbers like 2, 4, 12, 15, and 20, the number that's exactly in the middle is 12. That's called the median. But this one asks for the mean. You want to remember what? There's like another word sometimes people use for that, yeah? Not quite. You want to have another guess? What mean is? Yep.
I would say it's the main number that we need to find,
What does that mean?
like the total number.
The total number? So like adding all of these together?
Yeah.
Okay, that's part of it. You do have to add them all together. Yep.
You have to divide by 5.
And then you divide by how many you have. Right? Sometimes people refer to that as just the average. Right? So to find the average of all of these, we have to add them all together and divide by 5. Now, they tell us what they want the average to be. What do they want the average to come out to? Yeah? They want it to come out to 5. So we have some days where we rode more than 5. We have one day where we rode less. One day we didn't do any biking at all. We rode exactly 5. But they want the average to come out to 5. So what we have to do is add up the miles we rode each day, divide by how many we have, and that needs to come out to 5. So let's start with Monday. How many miles did we bike on Monday? Yep.
3.5.
All right, so that's our first one. Plus, how about Tuesday? What did we ride on Tuesday?
5.5.
5.5. Wednesday?
0.
Took a 0. Didn't do anything on that day. Thursday? 5. And on Friday? X. That's what we don't know. And we're going to divide that by what to find the average? Yep.
5.
5, because that's how many days we have. You always divide by how many you added up. And remember, this is the average. What's the average supposed to equal? Yep. It's supposed to come out to 5. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is combine all of these like terms. 3.5 plus 5.5 plus 0 plus 5. Okay? That's going to make it look a lot simpler. Anyone think they can do that part? That's probably the hardest part right there. 3.5 plus 5.5. Yeah?
9.
That's 9. And then 9 plus 0, well, it's still 0. What's 9 plus 5? Yep.
14.
14. So now, we have this. Okay. And I'm going to give you guys a hint at the next step. We want to get rid of that. what are we doing with the 5? Are we adding it, subtracting it, multiplying, or dividing? Yeah? We're dividing. So what is the opposite of dividing? Yeah. Multiplication. So what we're going to do first is get rid of that 5 by multiplying each side by 5. What that does is it cancels it out. Now I know that's a little different. This problem is a special case. There's always special cases. Okay, so this happens to be a little bit of a special case that you can just remember when you're doing an average problem. You multiply by the number in the bottom. Now on the left, that just leaves you with 14 plus x. And on the right, what's 5 times 5? Yeah, go ahead. 25. Now we're down to our last step to get x by itself. How would we get rid of the 14? Yeah. Subtract. And subtract. That's gone. And 25 minus 14 is going to give me how much? Yeah. 11. And what is that? 11 what? What did we solve for?
The mean.
Well, the mean is 5. They told us that. We solved for
Miles bike.
on what day?
Friday.
Friday. So we just solved for the number of miles that we have to bike on Friday to figure out, to make sure we average at least 5 miles a day. So this is the kind of thing that would probably be helpful if you were trying to figure out your grade. Let's say you had like a 70, a 60, and an 82. And you said, I want to average at least a 75 for the term. What do I have to get on the last test? That's the same kind of problem. All right. So, homework tonight will be 1.2, part 2. That's online in Schoology. Is anybody unsure where to find it? Okay, so if you're looking for it, go to the guided notes, homework, and videos. And it is lesson 3. Okay, so you click on lesson 3, click homework, click view. They're all problems like what we did today, except the bottom is a review of stuff we did earlier in the week to get you ready for the test. Okay, numbers 6, 7, and 8 are review. Number 9 is a problem just like we did with the biking. It's an average problem. So you can do it pretty much the same way, except the numbers are 1.5, 2, 1, and 3. They're just different numbers than the one we did in class. What else? So remember, first test is tomorrow. That'll be in Edge Elastic. I think by now everybody should be signed up. If you're not, double check. I'll help you get you signed up before the test. If you're going to be taking the test in a different room tomorrow, you'll be told about that. If nobody talks to you, then you're going to be taking the test right here. Make sure if you take the test in another room, we've got to make sure you can get into the test before you leave. That way, if you have a problem, I can help you while you're here. Okay? And again, try to make sure you've got a binder or something that you're organizing your notes so that way if you have to go back to them, you got them somewhere. Any questions on that? If anybody needs extra help, I think I said it, but I'll be after school today. Till probably at least 3:20. Depends if a lot of people come, sometimes I stay a little later.